So my name is Omar Rampersad. It's 2:13 p.m. October 7, 2019. So I'm going to show you some numbers here. And my head is coming in at some big numbers here. That was a 2000. My jaw is tagged. The mouth. The mouth is tagged. The ear. The chest. So the chest is tagged. And I have a fluttering feeling in my chest. You see the high electrical currents there? And the EMF reading is alarming. The normal EMF reading around the body should be well over, under 5. But look at those numbers. Now I don't have magnets on my chest. So my chest is tagged. My heart is tagged. So let's see what the obliques looks like. Yeah, see that huge number there? So what's wrong is that the power is being turned up on me. So the symptoms that I'm experiencing is directly related to the high power, electrical power around my body. And as I've indicated before, there is talk about my being monitored and flagged on behalf of the police because I'm flagged. And there's a criminal report circulating in the building and I'm being monitored. So these signals indicate monitoring, also indicate torture because right now my heart is tagged. And I started getting heart palpitations when I moved into this building. Did not have them before. $1,100 plus, 600 plus. So it would seem from the numbers that it cycles through low numbers, then it goes up a range and it cycles through a higher set of numbers. And then it goes up a range and then it cycles through a higher and then it drops. Some sort of algorithm that's being run for the numbers. So my chest is tagged. So I am getting heart palpitations. I have some flutterings in my chest and the cavity. And this would explain why. So there's a comment outside the window, several comments outside the window today about turning up the power and mentioning the Chinese man who harassed me at night saying that he is the government, and actually talking about this man by his name, who he identified himself as CK. And there is conversations outside the window today about CK being the new seed, and he turned up the power, and he's from the government. Now, I'm not sure whether that's true or not, but definitely it's being used to intimidate. And the implication is that the government has turned up the power. Now, traffickers and criminals are going to use any lies to intimidate their victims. Because CK also said that he lives in the bottom, and the genital area has the power turned up as well. And when I punched the button to start recording the conversation, he asked, "Why are you recording?" So he could see me inside of my home. So CK, who lives on the first floor, who is the new seed, and who the person outside the window is talking, is related, I should say, to the person outside the window who is talking about CK. The two know each other. The person outside the window who's holding the conversation with someone else knows CK, and apparently CK is the new seed. He got a new one and mentioned CK is the new one. So he's talking like a pimp, basically. And CK turned up the power. So my chest is tagged and my heart is tagged. In other words, if I expose what's going on and I talk and I tweet like I'm doing, I will get a heart attack. This is what's implied. So the person outside the window is the pimp who receded with CK, an old Chinese man who lives in the first building, in the first floor of the building. So let me just confirm. There's been no diagnosis of mental illness because there is no mental illness. There is a process of recruitment that's very similar to the Epstein ring, where the training is being done remotely, and then the selling is supposed to turn physical at some point. So the comment outside the window by the pimp that I just referred to is that I decelebrated her, meaning that I'm all trained up remotely, and it's now time to make it physical. First, I was to be made aware that I was being trained. Then it was to turn physical. So the new seed was certain black men, Rick being the name that was called by this pimp. And now it's a Chinese man. And my account is being monitored globally because there's this criminal report, which is all part of recruitment. There's absolutely nothing criminal in my background. Never have been. And there is not now none. But there is this air of criminality being built around me, and this air of making me, this air of mental illness, this painting of being mentally ill. What's being used to paint me as mentally ill is my verbalization about what is going on. Like CK, the old Chinese man living on the first floor, calling me at 12 o'clock at night several times, leaving creepy messages on my phone, terrorizing me. And while this is going on, I'm not supposed to do or say anything about it. Because when I verbalize, that verbalization is taken as some sort of a sign of mental illness. I've talked to my therapist about this. Verbalization is not mental illness. It's actually a way of dealing with the emotions that's created as a result of being harassed this way, and sexually harassed by the signals that I just demonstrated, tortured. Because right now my heart is tagged. I have a fluttering feeling in my chest. I could go into cardiac arrest anytime because it creates arrhythmia, gives rise to arrhythmia, and I could not come back from it. This is torture. This is attempted murder. And it has to do with this man called CK and with the man who's talking outside the window, who is a pimp for CK. He sold me to CK, or else CK would not be calling me, because I heard I'm registered up as a prostitute, which I'm not, and I'm labeled as one because it's absoluted. And these men are my victims. CK, who harassed me on the phone 12 o'clock at night, who I don't know, by the way, trying to make contact with me because he bought me. The man outside the window today saying he's a victim. He's being victimized by me, even though he is calling me to make contact with me because this pimp sold me to him. This is how ridiculous this whole thing is. There's a trafficking ring operating in this building, and I am exposing it. So this ring is trying to get me mentally committed and removed from the building because they don't want exposure and they don't want any prosecution, because this ring has a lot of rich, powerful people involved in it. The people, the professionals who are involved, who are victimized without their knowing, are being sold by very rich professionals in the workplaces, most likely. And I suspect very strongly that Rohini Bisasa was victimized this way. So she got disposed of, and now she's sitting in a psych ward. And I heard that somebody had a pubic hairs removed. Well, why would you remove the pubic hairs? Well, as CK says on his message and his attempted conversation that I shut down because he's trying to terrorize me, he lives in the bottom. Well, this is exactly what it means to be gerbil, because the pimp outside the window openly talks about gerbling and sending men into women. This is all done remotely. Talk to you another time.